Hello and welcome to the BG Podcast, episode 244. My name is A.J. Bingham, CEO and founder of Bingham Group, and joining me is associate Hannah Garcia.
Good morning, everybody.
And yes, we're recording this on the morning of April 8th, Eclipse Day, total Eclipse Day.
Yes. Big day for Central Texas.
Hopefully the clouds right now as we're recording this at 9:50 in the morning. I'm downtown. It's a little overcast. Hopefully it clears up by I think one downtown is supposed to their totality is supposed to hit us around 1:36, I believe.
hmm
Central. Quote me.
Two
Don't quote me.
minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes of that. I got my shades. I'm ready to go. So as always, we'll be covering politics and discussions from last week, as well as what's ahead for the week of April 8th. Kicking it off, last week, big news, something we've been talking about the last several episodes, probably since at least the beginning of the year. But the selection of the city manager. City Council made it official on April 4th, last Thursday, when they approved a final employment contract with TC Broadnax, who was most recently the city manager of Dallas. He still has to sign that contract and execute it, but according to the terms of that contract, his first day, if you were to agree and sign, his first day with the city of Austin would be on Monday, May 6th, which was sooner than I thought. Hannah, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I remember looking back at the timeline that they released right after we fired our previous city manager, and it said we weren't going to get one until potentially September of this year. So they've done a very great job beating that timeline, which is always great. We love to see effective and efficient use of our taxpayer dollars.
Which people would
So
realize too, these things, there were comments. We'll post a link to the contract agreement in the show notes. But I think the salary was it 240 or is it 270?
470, I thought.
I'm sorry, you're right. 470. I think people have questions about that and everything else, but I think you're realizing too the degree that the person in this role, like what that entails, right? A city of 15, or sorry, a organization of 15,000 employees, which includes all public safety, the airport, Austin Energy, which by the way, the Austin Energy director actually is the highest paid person in the city of public employee in the city of Austin,
Mhm.
which I'd forgotten until I got a reminder about that. But in any event, we will have a new city manager, most like 99% sure, by May 6th. And with that comes, so he will be Mr. Broadnex will be in the driver's seat for our upcoming FY 24-25 budget process, which is underway now, but gets in earnest before council going into August after the July recess or the summer recess rather. And yeah, again, it was to your point, Hannah, effective use of tax dollars. We got this done. And we were without a permanent city manager for about a year and a half at this point. And I'm certain city employees are happy to have permanent leadership there. And I think pointing your work on the org chart that we've been reviewing, or you've been revising as it's been changed the last year and a half, getting some certainty down the ranks from the assistant team managers, directors, and so forth. So more to come on that. And we'll be in the coming weeks reviewing Mr. Broadnax's work in the city of Dallas and his time as city manager of Tacoma, based on what's publicly available from news articles, to give y'all a reference for what to expect in Austin. But I think we're all are now kind of anticipating, or we're not anticipating, it's all guesses right now, but we know he will be in charge of the budget. And that's what we have right there. But any other thoughts, Hannah?
Well, the budget is a big team effort. Obviously, the city manager leads that. So excited to see how he'll lead this. If you remember last year, we kind of went back to the 90s with the budget. We got paper copies of that, or city staff did when it was released, and then it was released on a Sunday. So wondering if it'll be similar to our previous city managers, permanent city managers, or if he'll stick with that the the kind of the precedent that's been set for him this previous year. Additionally, on March 31st, all boards and commissions were not required, but if they wanted to give a budget recommendation to the city manager, they had to submit that by March 31st. Obviously, these are just recommendations. They might not be put into the budget, but we'll be doing a review of those and seeing, top things that have been recommended and if they make it into the budget.
In other city news last week as well, and this is something that flew under the radar, but I think is of significant importance for the city of Austin and Austinites was we received word of the retirement of Bree Franco, who was the city of Austin's intergovernmental relations officer. This is important because this role serves as the manager and clearinghouse for the city of Austin's federal and state policy agendas, as well as managing our City of Austin's contract lobbyists. For those who aren't aware, in Texas, municipalities can have contract lobbyists, and and then we'll put a link to the show notes, but it's all publicly available who those lobbyists are, what they're paid. Council has to approve it when they're whenever when their contracts come up for it, so it's all public. But school districts have them, the county has them, and they're a lobbyist. So very important role, I think, shoes to fill there as we approach the next legislative session, which will be, I mean, they're all lively, but I expect this one, I think we talked this internally, Hannah, to be especially lively on the GOP side. And as for those who aren't familiar with Austin politics or Texas politics, it doesn't take much for folks at the Capitol to want to take the bat to Austin by far. So
Yeah,
that role having someone who at least who has familiarity, who can navigate the Capitol as well as recognize the kind of lobbyists the city needs to help facilitate those efforts is going to be of paramount importance. I would say is equally, I mean, for different reasons, but as equally as important as who our city manager is.
yeah, exactly. I would agree with that. Previously at last session, especially, we got some pretty scary bills filed in relation to Austin, specifically targeting the light rail system we're trying to build, Project Connect, among other things. One of the things we also saw was what they refer to as the Death Star bill passed, which kind of is saying that if the state legislates on it, the city cannot.
Oh, yes, preemption.
Yeah, preemption. And so there's a lot of things that we see targeting or kind of trying to amend local control. Definitely going to see more of that this coming session. There's a lot of bills that didn't pass related to that. So interesting to see. We've also got a lot of new faces on the GOP side, or we likely will. There's several runoffs that still need to happen.
In May, coming
up. Yeah, including our current Speaker of the House, Speaker Dade Phelan. So very interesting to see how this will all kind of shake out. I think we'll be looking for a fun legislative session.
It'll be interesting to say the least.
Yeah,
always interesting.
And one more note on those lobbyists. Right now, we're competing for a lot of federal funding, specifically, that infrastructure funding that was passed about 3 years ago now. We're seeing a lot of infrastructure, I think, across the nation fail. And so because of that, it's time to kind of start investing in building more. And one of those things is, pedestrian bridges, as well as, the Barton Springs Bridge. But additionally, the highway, there's definitely a lot of I-35, a lot of anti-displacement measures, as well as trying to reconnect the city that we've gotten some federal funding for the city of Austin to kind of help pay for that, but definitely need a lot more. And so this potential new lobbyist that we'll be replacing Bree Franco is going to be very, very important, especially just for the quality of life we have.
But to qualify too, so she's not a lobbyist. She's more like she's the internal manager of the lobbyists, right?
Yes.
She represents, she through them, she manages that team. But yeah, so it'll be because public employees can't lobby technically. So there's that. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting it's been interesting at the City of Austin the last several quarters, and I think with Mr. Broadneck starting early next month and on, and I expect it to be an interesting summer too. Hopefully the fun kind. And then turning to this week, some other interesting fun happening at City Hall on Thursday. Hannah, tell us about this special called meeting.
We are having a joint planning commission and city council meeting for, I believe it's 4 pretty big land development code amendments. One of those is the equitable transit oriented development overlay. That's going to allow more density along our planned light rail line. We've also got citywide compatibility. Compatibility is in relation to what you can build next to each other and how tall it can build. So this will be revising the height and building placement as well as what a triggering property is. And so this will allow you to build a lot higher next to um, I guess I'm trying to think of a good, it's not single family homes, but it's like condos, duplexes, stuff like that. Obviously, we don't want to build a 120-foot building right behind somebody's family home. So it'll
Mhm.
just be revising it to where we can build more multifamily housing next to multifamily housing. And that'll take that down to 75 feet. Right now, we have it at 540 feet.
Oh,
So
wow.
if you want to build a tall building, you have to make sure you're 100 or 540 feet away from something that's zoned as high as SF4B. And those are condos, those are duplexes, those are pretty dense houses. Additionally, we've got home phase two. And if you remember back in October, we had a similar joint planning commission and city council meeting for home phase one. Home phase one passed, and home phase two will now be reducing the lot size needed to build one home. And the reason that that's important is because being able to subdivide lots allows you to potentially build more housing. And the bigger the lot, the less housing and less units you can get. And so that will hopefully allow for more home ownership in the city. And one note, we hadn't been seeing much opposition to this. I think, we typically see people show up to council, I think, every week to try to, say like, don't do this, don't do this. And I was driving down South Lamar, or I guess North Lamar, and right in front of the Zach Theater, I saw a sign that said, "Stop home next."
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so this is
Creative.
a throwback. I believe it was like 2018.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
no, before, because
yeah.
I was still at Rico when the first first or the Lexus most recent, not recent attempt, and that attempt had went down.
So it's like
That was
what?
Code Next, part
So
one.
2016, 2017, around
Yeah,
then,
that's about right. Yeah.
um, we saw a lot of groups, specifically around like from neighborhood associations. They made signs that said "Stop Code Next," and that was about the potential land development code rewrite. So we're definitely seeing them compare it to that. However, this is a much smaller land development code amendment, just in relation to lot size. It won't be amending the entire land development code. So yeah, I saw that. We know that there's a lot of other people, in support of this. So it's definitely going to be interesting on Thursday to kind of see how the numbers shake out. I think we're kind of blind on how many supporters and how much opposition they have, just because we haven't heard much talk
Mhm.
about it yet. It's been pretty quiet.
I know anecdotally we'd heard from one council staffer close to this that they just hadn't gotten that relative to home, the first phase of home last year. They hadn't gotten nearly as much, feedback on, or not feedback, but outreach about it. Now, obviously, it's Monday and there's still a few days for it. And even when they get through this joint meeting on Thursday, there's still another round of meetings coming up after it too. So there's still plenty, the month's still young. There's still plenty of time to go there.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And then the final one we'll have on the dais that day is electric vehicle charging,
yeah,
just to create a new zoning category specifically for electric vehicles. If you live in Austin and you drive around here once, you'll see about 7 Teslas. So this will be great for all those people who have an electric car and want to buy an electric car.
yeah. With that, we're closing the show out, and we'll see y'all next Monday, if not, or we'll be talking to y'all next Monday, if not sooner, depending what happens this week, if anything else of immediate note arises. But again, we'll have links in the show notes to the city manager final contract, as well as the 4 proposed land development code amendments coming up at council, or sorry, the special called meeting between council and planning commission this Thursday. You all have a great rest of the day. If you're in the zone of totality in Austin or anywhere else or along the path in the country, wear your shades. Don't look without shades on, please. Be safe and have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, have a great day, everybody.